Hello, it's Charles Folkart on September the 10th, 2017. I want to welcome all of you. Thank you for subscribing, sharing, and supporting this channel. Tomorrow is September 11th. It's been 16 years since Israel and parties within the United States attacked the World Trade Center owned by, what was his, Lucky Larry Silverstein. But if I explain that, what I mean by that, or why that's important, I'm considered an anti-Semite, and I risk having my YouTube channel blocked. I would encourage you to subscribe over at BitChute. Get used to going to BitChute, because I think if you're going to want to watch anybody that's telling you the truth, you're going to have to go somewhere other than YouTube. But I wanted to talk today about illusionary world. Illusionary world. I say quite a bit, and I believe this, is that we live in an illusionary world, or we who have the reality, who understand the truth. That's what truth is. Truth is reality. You shall know the reality, and the reality shall set you free. And I want to explain what I mean by that. I'm going to use an example. There's some information that I need, and the best way for me to get it is from other people. So there's this group that meets, and I went to one of their informal meetings yesterday to get some more information. And there was 3 men there and a wife. The one fella, he's been a counselor, and he mentions the scripture a lot. And the other fellow was in law enforcement, and this other fellow there, I don't know yet, but these 2 fellows here, they had a lot to say. And I'm new there, so I didn't want to cause any problem, because they have information I want, and I don't want to be known or be considered from the very first as a kook. So I'm keeping my mouth shut, which is very it's not difficult for me anymore just to keep my mouth shut, because if people are going to argue with me and they don't want to hear what I have to say, I'm just not going to say anything to them. And we're beginning to shrink back. You notice that we're like a turtle or a tortoise. At least I am. I'm coming back within my shell to protect myself, because I have to. The collective environment, the communist environment that we live in, you have to protect yourself from. So in my endeavor, or my attempts to protect myself, I need some information. So I go to this group, and after we're done with some of the talk about the information that I need, they start into what they want to talk about. And the Vietnam War came up. Now I'm a Vietnam War era individual. Oh, and they mentioned some the burning down of the Bank of America on the West Coast, and I remember that. Bank of America was like in Santa Barbara or up Berkeley area. I can't remember, and it's not important, because the point is, these 3 men were on the side of law enforcement, and what action that was taking place was perfectly justified. And even though I didn't protest the Vietnam War, I wasn't out in the streets, I was able to critically think about what their arguments were at 18 years old, because remember, my ass was on the line here. I had friends of my, I had older brothers of friends of mine that were coming back from Vietnam and saying, you don't want to go to Vietnam, you don't want to go to Vietnam. But these men were talking about, the one man was talking about how a lot of the men came back from Vietnam and they didn't even know what to call it then, but it was post-traumatic stress. So this one counselor was able to help him. He was using scripture to get them through what they had done, the atrocities they were required to do. But they weren't required to do them. See, you don't have to obey an unlawful order, but these men did. And basically they end up killing women and children, because the women and children were the ones who were carrying the explosives sometimes. So these white Caucasian men were coming back all messed up because they killed a bunch of men and women, and I think they saw how ridiculous it was for them to be in Vietnam. And, you know, they made a mistake. I'm sorry. If you went to Vietnam, you did not fight for the American people. You fought for the government, who murdered J.F. Kennedy because he was going to withdraw. One reason is he was going to withdraw from Vietnam. All right? So here I am sitting among this group of men, and they're talking about post-traumatic stress, but not because the big issue that they brought up is that the American people didn't welcome them back. They didn't feel welcome. So among the vets, they would greet each other with "welcome home." And it just amazes me that these men didn't see the irony of that. You know, they assumed that the reason that they were so messed... See, the one counselor knew why they were messed up in the head. And the counselor was talking about a guy that was talking about committing suicide a couple times a year. That's how messed up these men were. And that's why so many veterans today shoot themselves. I think it's 20 a day. I don't know. That sounds like an awful high number, but that's what they say. So these men who are in Vietnam and Iraq and these other wars are coming back and emotionally messed up, or they're so gung-ho on the military that they enjoy what they did there. Okay, so that's the scene I'm at. I'm inside this room with this man. I don't want to cause a problem. So I didn't say anything. I just listened. I got two ears. I got one mouth. I kept it closed. I listened. The other fellow that's in law enforcement, he starts going on about Vietnam and that incident there on the West Coast for the Bank of America, and how the protesters were wrong. Okay? Now, I don't know who blew up. See, that's the important thing. I don't know who blew up that Bank of America. Now, he just assumes it's the people who were against the war. But you know what? Maybe it was done by somebody else that want him to think that these guys did it. You know, I'd like to go back and look into that now that I know what I know, and I look at things completely differently. Anyway, the point I want to make about this is this man, let's take the law enforcement guy. His reality here, or his illusionary world, includes the Vietnam War here. Okay? So he's got this view of the Vietnam War, and I have a completely different view than he does. Okay? So then, World War II, he mentioned something about George Patton had post-traumatic stress disorder, and I got the idea that he thought Patton committed suicide. So I got to put this here, and we're going to put Patton here. Okay, so he's got this understanding of the world that Patton committed suicide, and the Vietnam War was good, and all those people protesting the war. So then we got World War II and I know he's all gung-ho on World War II because he talked about his father being so proud of being in World War II. All right. So then we're going to have, tomorrow is the anniversary of 9/11. So we got all that illusionary world that he belongs in. And you get it. You understand. So he's got this world view that is just completely erroneous, but that's the world that he operates. That's the paradigm from which he operates with. So enter Charles, who's got a completely different view. And these other individuals that you have to interact with, they've been brainwashed their entire life through the movies, the magazines, the books, the news, the what they're told when they go in the military, what they're told when they go in law enforcement. They have the view of the collective. They have the collective view. They have the groupthink. So along comes the individual who doesn't agree with them, and they've been trained, they've been programmed to label, to think a certain way about individuals like me, that I'm a kook and that I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm an anti-Semite, I'm a neo-Nazi. See how they do that? So they do this all the time. They label their enemies. They demonize. They create the most negative image that they possibly can against their enemy and get you to believe it through their programming, through their brain, through their propaganda. And boy, has it been effective, folks. All right, you've been effective. Now, the week earlier, I was there with a fella, and he was open to what I had to say, and we had a long conversation. But see, it was back and forth conversation. I was talking, he was talking, and I was getting information to him, and he was getting information from me. But these two fellows, it was all one way. See, that's the difference. There's not enough individuals like the one I met last week where we could have a give and take. You know, you just don't, just because I'm in the room trying to get information from you about a certain topic, don't mean I'm stupid about everything, you folks. And don't think you got a monopoly on, some of these people think they have a monopoly on reality, and they don't. They live in an illusionary world. And the scary part of it is, there might be a time coming soon, and there is these times happening already down in Houston and Florida with these hurricanes that very well may be man-enhanced, if not man-made. Who knows? I believe they are doing their best to play with the weather. You can tell by all the spraying they do, etc. And the harp. They're not just make those things and then forget about them and don't use them, folks. They're using them, and they're playing with the weather. They're playing as God. And their collective thought is causing many of us to retract, like the turtle, like the tortoise. Because in order to survive, we're retracting, and this is causing a shrinking in the economy. I'm going to do a separate video on just the economic aspects of how this shrinking, how the collective, how the groupthink, the communist, I don't want to use that word, folks, the Herodians that control our world, they do nothing but destroy the world for us as they gain. They gain, we lose. It's a lose for us and a win for them. And we've got to finally figure out that we could kick their ass. They bombard us with the fear that how powerful they are, and they're all-knowing, and they see everything, and they want us to be afraid. They want us to give up before the war the war is over. They're using, they do it all the time. They drop the leaflets. They do the the loudspeakers. Come on, folks. We've got to stop being afraid because they want us to be afraid. We've got to realize that reality is not the same as the world that they want us to believe. Scripture talks about Jesus Christ himself. Many times he points to nature. He says, consider the fowls of the air. Consider the lilies. When you see the clouds gathering in the east, you see, that's the reality. That's the truth over there. And we need to take the truth from over there and apply it. The sun is not 93 million miles away, folks. What does that mean? That means that the whole heliocentric model that we've been told all our life is a lie. Now, you sit there and try to tell these people who believe these lies, you try to tell them that they live on a flat earth, okay? Flat earth. That's their world, and you put in over here everything else, okay? That's their world, and it's very difficult for someone who believes otherwise to have to live in this world, right? It's getting more difficult all the time, isn't it? Now they're going to force us. They already do on the Holocaust, right? Here's the holy hoax. All right? Holy hoax. You have to believe that 6 million Jews were exterminated, were in the gas chambers in Germany, or you're an anti-Semite. Okay? And then also we got this, the Nazis. Nazis. Right? The evil Nazis. If you don't think that Adolf Hitler was the most evil person that's ever lived, at least in the last 200 years, you're a Nazi. And it just goes on and on, folks. Okay, we have to learn how to live in this environment, and I believe it's causing us to retreat for now, because it's too much. We can't do what we used to be able to do, and I'll get into that economically in here in a video in the future. Anyway, that's my thoughts on and my attempt to live in the world that I find myself in. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any comments, I prefer you comment at BitChute. But if you have any comments below, you're welcome. When I get to it, I'll get to it. I want to thank you for watching, subscribing, and supporting this channel, and may the grace of God, our Father, the creator of the level plane, the sun that's not 93 million miles away, and the moon is not 238,000 miles away. I'll bet you the moon is less than 200 miles up there. And I think the moon is more like 100 miles. The moon is only 70 miles wide because of the shadow it creates, or less, okay? Those are facts. Those are scientific facts using their own information. Using their own information. Did you hear about the guy in the Goddard Space Station? This guy's a rocket scientist. He tells us now that the moon is traveling twice as fast as the Earth is rotating. They change their information as they go along. That's their illusionary world. See, they can make it up. It can change. Okay. May the grace of God our Father be with us all, because we certainly need it. See you.